Cecily Strong, thank you so much for being our guest on Improv Nerd.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you grew up in Oak Park, Illinois, which is a suburb in Chicago, and you were voted the funniest person in your middle school yearbook. What made you so funny back then?
Um, I don't know. I don't know what even makes you funny to a junior high kid now. I think I was just a ham. I'm glad the internet wasn't around because I probably would have been bullied if it were. I'm humiliated of myself. If like remembering myself as a 12-year-old is humiliating.
What about it that when you look back, you go, oh, I can't believe I did that?
Oh, just like I was just such a ham. I mean, like I guess I'm kind of the same, but just 12-year-olds are all such dweebs anyway. But just like doing a lot of I was watching so much SNL and just like doing impressions of what was already on TV, and I think we were like all doing like our versions of the cheerleaders, at outside of school and stuff, and doing my own characters and accents and things like that. I remember I left all of our voicemail, like leave us a message, the messages for people to leave voicemail.
Were your parents supportive of your hamminess when you were younger?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they put me in a drama class when I was 3. Like that was when I took my first drama class, and I did a lot of community theater, and then I started doing professional theater when I was like 11 or 10 or 11. I did a lot in the city growing up. My mom would drive me every day, and she worked at the same time. And I would just like, she'd make me spaghetti, and I'd eat it in the car on the way to rehearsals and stuff.
And then, so you went to this performing arts school here in Chicago,
Hmm.
and then you go to Cal Arts,
Right.
and you had teachers tell you when you were at Cal Arts that you should be taking classes at the Groundlings, which of course is it's like Second City for people that don't know. A lot of people from Saturday Night Live come there, and then you started to take a class at the Groundlings. What did you like about that class?
Um, that was really my first real improv class. I think I'd taken one before when I was 9 or something. But I'd always done theater before, and I guess Cal Arts is it's kind of avant-garde and experimental, so that kind of prepares you for, it is a lot of improv, but just not in the sense we know it in Chicago. But I'd always thought of myself as such a strictly, theater person. So that was really my first real improv class, and I really fell in love with it, and I loved everybody in my class. I loved the teacher, and so right away I knew two things. I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and that I was going to be poor. So I moved back to Chicago pretty much immediately,
And so
where
why
one
did
can
you
be poor and my mother can buy me groceries.
um, is that why you moved back to Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much because I knew it was just an easy choice. I have family there, and it's the best place to study comedy, really.
And what
There's so many opportunities to study there.
and for us who've been doing it in Chicago for a while, we take it for granted. What is it that makes Chicago, I think, one of the best cities to study comedy and improv?
Oh, it 100%. It is probably the best city. I just say that easily and not think it's hyperbole. I think it's just because there are so many. There's Second City, there's IO, there's The Annoyance, there's new theaters popping up all the time. That's just like where you go to do it. It's there's an audience for it. There's so many people there doing it, and there's the best teachers, there's the best audiences for it. That's just where you go to learn it.
And so you're in Chicago, you're taking a lot of classes, you're working 4 jobs to survive. How important was that to immerse yourself in improv at that time?
um, I don't know that there's any other way to do it. I didn't know anybody who was sort of like half assing it in improv. I think really like when you're in the world, you're really fully in it. It's just you fall in love with it so much that that's just what you want to be doing. It's just an everyday of your life kind of thing. You're taking classes every day, you're doing workshop, you have your own private group that you're producing your own show that nobody's coming to see. You're begging your friends to see. You know, it's just, it really is your life. You're seeing shows. There's, you know, you have your favorites, your heroes in Chicago that you're wanting to see their shows. It just really, I didn't know anybody that was just sort of like, oh, I do this once a week.
And when you were doing this, Cecily, what were you thinking? Like, what was your goal at that point?
Um, at that point, you know, I wanted to be, I loved that I got to play with Virgin Daiquiri. That
Which is an
was
all-female team, if people don't know.
right. So that was a real high point for me when Dina asked me to play with them. I really just kind of I wanted to be able to sort of just survive and get to do what I loved. You know, I didn't obviously SNL is like the dream and but it feels like, you know, that's like winning the lottery, and it felt insane to say I want to be on SNL because it's just so unlikely. And I know so many amazingly talented people who just wouldn't be on SNL for variety of reasons. There's luck is such a big part of it too, you know.
And
Um,
you were reluctant to even audition back in 2012
yeah.
at the IO, and you almost didn't go. Can you tell us that story?
Well, because I hadn't done a lot of like solo work yet. I came from, you know, theater and ensemble and improv and not a lot of like solo sketch work. So I took a workshop with Matt Miller, and Sharna was pushing me to do it. And I'd heard, you know, once you audition once, that's your one shot. And if Lauren doesn't want to see you again, then you don't get to audition again. So I didn't want to blow my one shot. But Sharna was very encouraging, and she's the real. I definitely owe a lot of this in my head. I definitely always thank her for this job in a big way.
And so, how did you then change your mind?
Um, I think after doing the workshop, you know, you seeing myself on tape, just feeling like, oh, maybe I am ready for this, and then going in front of, you know, Sharna held auditions to even be seen in front of the SNL people, and I think they came earlier than we thought, so we wound up all having to audition the same night, and I was working in the box office that night, and I had to go last, and it was like after a night of everyone doing their own material, I went, you know, so it was like 2 hours of solo stuff of like everybody doing their Woody Allen or whatever it is. And then I went and I got laughs. And so I felt that kind of gave me the confidence to do it. Like, oh, maybe I'm okay at this. Maybe I have a shot, or at least like I can be proud of what I did. Even if I don't have a shot, I can be proud that I did a decent job in front of them.
And do you know that night if they're going to ask you to fly to New York to audition?
No, not at all. And my family was there, and they were sitting right behind Lorne, and so they were so nervous. And afterwards, I could only see like the nerves on their face, so I thought I'd totally blown it because they just were so. They looked like they'd seen a ghost, and so I was like, "Oh my God, I must have sucked." Like just trying to read my dad's face, but my dad was just like he'd just seen Lorne Michaels, so he was making that face and not talking.
So, when you went to bed that night, what are you thinking? How are you feeling about yourself?
I mean, I don't even I can't even remember. I think I was just like sort of in shock. And then the next day, I remember I was at Trader Joe's, and I, I got an email that said that they wanted to see me at the Ritz-Carlton, that they were going to, you know, like talk to 8 of us or something. And I started like crying in Trader Joe's, and I called my mom, and we did this weird like speed dating thing at the Ritz-Carlton.
Where what you met with Lauren for like 10 minutes or something?
Yeah, where there were two tables set up with a couple of the producers and writers at one table, and then Lauren and Eric Kenward and Colin Jost and Steve Higgins at one table, and we each of us, you know, moved around the tables, you know, spent 5 minutes in each seat or whatever.
The thing I love about,
pretending that that was completely normal and like trying to have a normal conversation.
and what were you thinking when you went into that? How were you feeling?
So nervous and just like completely just like what is going on? Like what's my life right now? Just like it was all so just that it was just so not real. Like this isn't my life. And trying to be like I'm trying to keep a distance from it too. I didn't want to be crushed because I just was like, I'm not going to get this.
And then they fly you there and you audition and you do get it, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I did get it eventually. I got flown out, so I was flown out for a screen test later that week. That was an all-female screen test, and then I got back. It was my friend picked me up from the airport, and I got an email from Lindsay Shuckus, who's in the talent department, that was saying they were going to fly me out again just for meetings. And they do these like again where you just have to sit and hang out, where they just make sure you're like not a crazy person or you're crazy in the right way.
Right.
And then I had to wait a month and heard nothing. And again, it's like trying to go back to my regular life and be like, that's okay. If I don't get it, it's so cool. Just auditioning opens you up to so much. Then all of a sudden you get calls from agents and managers that you weren't getting before. So then about a month later, I got called to do another screen test, and they wanted, a new set from me. So I sat with my friend Kellen Alexander, and I remember we were on my porch and just going, I'm running all these trying to do new impressions and new characters, and he was helping me with that, to try to come up with a new bit. And then went out and did that and came back, and then I got another call that I was being flown out again, and it was that last trip where I met with Lauren, and that's where I was told I got the job.
Did you do that character that is so hilarious? The one, the I call her like the Lincoln Park Trixie who gets
I
drunk.
didn't. Everybody asked me that, but I didn't. I, I wrote that with Colin about 2 weeks in, just making fun of myself, kind of.
In what way?
Well, we were trying to come up with an update feature we were going over all the things I did in my audition, and I think I said like, and that one's like really important for society, and just started making fun of myself like that. And we went back and forth. He was like, maybe there's something to that. And I was like, I don't know. And that's how that started.
What part of that character is you?
Well, I think in the part of me that's the liberal, the obnoxious liberal part of me, I guess.
But you don't drink as much as she does, right?
Well, she doesn't even, the funny thing is, so the first couple times we did it, she doesn't even necessarily have to be drunk, but everybody calls her drunk. And then a couple times we did it, people would be like, you need the wine glass. And I was like, she doesn't have a wine glass. And I had two people tell me, like, the second time I was doing it, don't forget the wine glass. Is it like for continuity? And I was like, there was never a wine glass. And I had to go show them the tape that I never had a wine glass. But people just assume she's drunk. But in my head, she doesn't have to be drunk. She's just obnoxious. Those people to me don't even need to be drunk. They're just that obnoxious.
Right. And I give her, I'm like, I want her to be drunk, so I cut her slack.
I know you're giving her too much credit.
Right.
In my head, she doesn't have to be drunk. Those are just like people on the internet to me.
Now you have four movies coming out this spring and summer: Ghostbusters, The Boss, The Bronze, Staten Island Summer. You
Oh,
are
The
having,
Meddler. Staten Island Summer is already out.
it's already
That's
out?
on that was
Okay.
on Netflix. Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got three movies coming out.
No,
Uh,
The Meddler is the fourth one.
The Meddler is the fourth one. You are having a great year. And
Yeah.
I love the Duplass brothers. They
Hmm.
directed The Bronze. Uh, Mark and Jay, they are known for letting their actors improvise on set. Um, how was that process working with them?
Well, so they didn't actually direct it. They were producers on it, and I didn't. I'm like obsessed with them, but I didn't get to meet them. That I have a pretty small role in that film. But because they were involved, it was, an easy choice to jump at that movie. But I got to at pretty much every movie I've done, I've gotten to improvise a lot, and it's really a real treat for me. And it's really nice when they let you do that, and I think it definitely helps a lot. And when you have that skill, it's like it's really nice when they let you use it, and I think it always helps. It helps in the end. It helps the character. It just makes it everything more real. And I think with movies, it's like they say that movies are for directors and TV is more for the writer.
And when you say when you do movies, they let you improvise. How do they let you improvise? For people that listen to this podcast who are huge improv nerds, you're not going up there and just riffing. There's a method to your madness.
Right. Well, I mean, it depends. Like in Ghostbusters with Paul's such a
Paul Feig.
comedy. Right. So he let us sometimes, I mean, we would just truly completely riff, and he has there would be, joke people who would come in to punch up jokes too. So they would, and Paul himself would as well, like give us, and not tell the others, would give us little jokes that we could use too. So we were always changing the script and just getting to say anything. And, with Kristen and Melissa and Kate and Leslie too, there's just so many funny people around, and we were constantly improvising, and that was so much fun.
What was so much fun about that experience I mean, Ghostbusters, a legendary comedy.
Yeah. Well, I think just for me, it was getting to work with all these people that I love so much. And, even the ones coming in to punch up jokes were people that I write with at SNL who are, my favorite that I write with, away from the show too. So it was just like all my favorite people that make me laugh so much that I get to now work with outside of the show too. So it was just laughing so much, it was really cool.
Was
And
there
Andy
any
Garcia, who also made me laugh so much.
was there any pressure you felt working on Ghostbusters with such a big cast and such a history?
Um, the pressure is like, I hope I make the cut. I mean, there's that because there's such a big cast. I'm like, let's hope I end up in the movie. But that was really it. And I guess because it was so secretive because of the hag and because that's really been the only pressure. It's like, oh God, I hope I haven't said anything. I don't, like how secretive do I have to be? Am I allowed to say I'm in it yet? I don't know. Am I allowed to say where I am? But other than that, I don't really feel any pressure.
You said that you feel lucky to be doing comedy during this time because of women like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler opened the door and broke down barriers for women like yourself and Melissa McCarthy. What have you
Hmm.
found yourself doing to actively open doors for the next generation of female comedians?
Um, I don't know that I'm like thinking about it that much. I don't know that I'm like going home and thinking about it. I'm just sort of being who I am and just doing what I do and hoping that the audience stays and that there are still jobs. And I'm trying to, when I write, I'm on my own and try to create. Right now I'm working on writing a movie, writing other shows. And when I do that, I want to write good female roles and write good roles for people of color. And so I guess there's that. I mean, but that's really the only, like, I guess, active step I could think of that I'm taking, but I'm not sure.
You also had a chance a couple years ago to host the White House Correspondent Dinner, and
Hmm.
that's like hosting the Oscars. It's a really tough room, and
Yeah.
I heard if you made the president and the first lady laugh, then you'd be okay. What was your strategy going into that?
Well, they asked me really early, so I just was like, I had months and months to doubt myself and not do much else because you can't really write jokes in August for something that you're going to do at the end of April. that's all topical, So that was, I wish I had been asked a little later. And I wanted an out immediate. Like, I wish we had a show that weekend so I could have said no, but been like, cool, I got asked. That's great. But we didn't have a show, so I had to say yes because it was also, it's Obama, and I figured I should do things that scare me, and I never was going to get a chance like that again. And I was really happy with the way it turned out, and that I got to say things that were important to me, and I was even happier that I never have to do it again.
What was the doubt building up to it for you?
I mean, it's just I'm not a stand-up. I knew everybody. I'd been told I'd been told by everybody how terrible the room is. Uh, I'd been told how many people say no to it too. I was like, I know I'm not their first choice. So I wonder how many people have said no before they asked me. It was just, I'd been warned so much. And so it was like, I know I can't win, so I just want to break even.
But you were willing to take that risk, and why was that important?
Um, for me, it was just personally, I would have it would have been a real loss if I had said no. Just a personal thing. I would have been really disappointed in myself if I had been too scared.
Even if you would have bombed.
Well, I would have hoped I wouldn't have. I think I would have. I trust myself enough to think I wouldn't have bombed. I mean, I was afraid of it, but I thought I'm just going to make sure I'm going to, work with the best people, and I think I'm good enough that I won't bomb. I hope, I may like not, I may be mediocre, but that's okay. I'll be mediocre and people will forget eventually.
How to you got to share your secret with me because I continue to bomb. I've been doing this for a long time. How do you prepare not to bomb?
I think I just assume that it's just mediocre. And like when you have bombed, I think it's because like doing improv, you've failed enough that you're like, you know what? I lived through it and I did another show and I did well. So it's sort of, you've lived through a bad show. You know what it is, and you got up the next day and you were okay.
And when you do, like for me, my problem is I'll do a bad show, and I will beat myself up for days.
Oh, for sure.
Do you do that, or how do you get through that? Because you've got like these are you're doing really well.
Oh, I mean, and I beat myself up all the time. I have to take Xanax every Sunday. I have a full anxiety attack every Sunday that I can't help.
Be-
I think that that's all normal, and we're all performers, and we're sensitive pansies, and of course we all go through. I mean, that's all completely normal. I don't know the trick for like feeling good about yourself all the time. I do therapy and I take vacations and I drink heavily.
I
So
do.
I don't know.
I do therapy too, and on the podcast, I bring it up, and I love to talk about it with the guests. How has therapy helped you become successful, and also helped you become a better performer?
Um, I think it's just makes me a better person. It's let me. I think I can't do much if I'm depressed. I don't think anybody's at their best when they're depressed, and I don't work well in that. I think, for me, what I do is I do best from a place of joy. And in order to, access joy, I can't be holding on to, grief and anger and self-doubt and loathing. And so therapy helps me kind of get those things out. And especially, we have a job where we are constantly judged, and we put ourselves out there to be judged. And the way we look and the way we talk and the way we think and our ideas. So, what's been really helpful with therapy, like my favorite thing that my therapist has said is, that these things in my head that I may think about myself, that they're just thoughts, they're not facts, and that has always been really nice. And, she's like, so we'll just work on, like just taking some of them out, just like throwing some of them out of your head, some of the worst ones.
And how do you take them out? Just metaphorically?
Yeah,
This is for
exactly.
me.
Yeah.
This is for me. Not for the listeners. This is for me. The
Well, I
other thing,
just liked that it was just like, just to remember that it's like, that's not a fact. That's not an objective fact that you're an idiot, that you're bad at this, that you're not as good at this, that you'll never be this. I just really needed to hear that. I need to remind myself of that sometimes.
did you, this, I appreciate your honesty because it's really helping me. Because I always think like, I had an opportunity years ago to audition for Saturday Night Live and I blew it off. And I look at people that, like yourself, that have gone on to a lot of success. And I blew it off because I was afraid and I had no support. I mean, I had a
Yeah.
ticket in my hand and everything. And, I always think, well, being on Saturday Night Live, doing all these movies that you've been doing, you've got to, you've got to be happy and all your problems go away. But that's not true, right?
Oh God, no. I have like snot stains on my couch in my office from when I've like just sobbed and been like, I'm worthless and nobody wants me. The studios don't want me. I'm not a get. I'm not, even to get Ghostbusters, there was a while where I was going to do it and then I wasn't going to do it. It was just so back and forth. And it's just like, it's just a hard business, but I've been doing it for so long, since I was a kid. So I had started dealing with rejection at such a young age that I think that was I've I'm pretty good with it for the most part. I mean, it always hurts, but I'm used to it. I know to expect it, I guess.
And the other thing I loved, researching you is it seems to me you can access tears very easily in your life.
I sure can, and I do. I'm a big crybaby.
Um, but you'll cry for everything,
Yeah.
happiness, sadness, right?
Hmm.
What was it growing up that your parents, the emotions were free? Because I grew up in a household where, you hit if you were sad, you just buried that for the rest of your life.
Right. I mean, I didn't, and I'm come from a family of wasps,
Hmm.
so it's not like we should have been that way. I don't know. I mean, I guess because I was always an actor. So I'm in all acting classes are like group therapy anyway. So it's like teaches you how to access that. And once you start learning that from a young age, I can access it too easily. I cry too easily. I wish I was better at holding it in sometimes.
And and how does that help with comedy to be able to access that sadness?
Well, I think for me, a lot of my the way I do comedy, not being a stand-up, but coming from comedy as an actor is playing it everything real or trying to play everything very real. And I think a a lot of times for me, I I had a director once that I really liked in theater. He was a French guy, but it was sort of like talking about how comedy and tragedy, a lot of times you play it the same. You may like timing is a little different in comedy, but a lot of times comedy and tragedy, you'll play it the same and it's just like the ending is different. And that's how you know if it was a comedy or a tragedy. And he brought up Buster Keaton, and it was sort of like you look at these like Buster Keaton movies, and he always looks like he's about to die, but he doesn't die, so everybody can laugh. And so that always stuck with me. And it's sort of like watching somebody react in a real way makes people laugh. That does make us laugh. And I was doing a scene my freshman year of college from Angels in America that I was playing very real. And I thought of it as a very dramatic scene. And people started laughing. And that's when realized, like, oh, maybe I can maybe this is comedy. And that's when my teacher told me to go to the groundlings. And that's sort of how that journey started. But I think when you play things in a real way, that is funny.
Um,
Just watching human beings go through life is funny.
and we've got to wrap this up. There's a couple quick questions I want to ask you. You brought up accessing joy. It's something that I've struggled with my whole life.
Of course, everybody. Yeah.
How do you access joy?
I try to be around people who are make me happy and try to be in situations that make me happy and try not to stay. I don't ever want to feel stuck and I don't want to complain too much. I usually am like, if I let myself be unhappy about something for a day or two and then I'm like, it's time to move on. Like now do something else, Cecily.
Um, Before we go, I ask the same question to all the guests. What advice do you have for someone starting out in improv today?
I would say go to Chicago.
Cecily Strong, thank you so much for being our guest on Improv Nerd. And
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. Thank you
oh
for
my
setting up
God,
this call.
this is great. And the movie, The Boss, The Bronze,
And,
Ghostbusters, what
and
was
The Meddler
and The
with
Meddler are all
with
out.
Susan Sarandon. Yes.
And
Well,
how
they're all opening soon.
they're
The
all
Meddler
opening
and
soon.
yeah.
And how are your parents dealing with your success?
Oh, it's like theirs. I'm hardly involved.
Okay. Well, I want to thank them because I went through your parents to get you on the show.
Oh,
They're
good.
very, they're very proud.
They're really sweet. They're great.
Yeah,
Yes.
they said she needs her rest, so I have to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Take care. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
There you have it. Another episode of Improv Nerd is in the can, and I'm so glad that Cecily Strong had some time carved out to give us this great interview. It was so honest and so candid, and I really appreciate it. We've been trying to get her for a long time, so thank you, Cecily, very much. And also check out her movies. I mean, my God, what a spring and summer is she having? Movies like The Meddler, The Boss, The Bronze, Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. She's having a great year.